Every time they think they're out, we keep pulling them back in. Steve Wyche is here, as well as Elliot Harrison. And Elliot is going to give us the breakdown when it comes to the top 5 quarterback wideout combos of all time. However, there is some criteria.
Yeah, we did top most talented, okay? And by that, we're considering guys at the apex of their career, maybe some guys that only played a couple years together. If I did the best all time, I would consider their entire career catalog. But number 5, Cole, was actually pretty easy, and it's two guys that have played a long time together, Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. And I took the 2014 season because Roethlisberger really turned it on in this particular season. The Steelers became a more pass-centric offense. He threw for 4,900 yards. And, Steve, this is when we really saw Antonio Brown go from being a all-pro candidate to best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, this is when we saw the full repertoire, because before it was, is he a short, catch and run guy? Is he this? And he really hit it all. He got open all the time. We're going to see a lot of spectacular catches. But Roethlisberger also, look at that right there, the big hit, some of the tough plays he made this season to get it to Antonio Brown. This is trust. This is when the quarterback knows, I'm going to put it up, I'm a receiver going to go get it.
Yeah, trying to tackle Ben Roethlisberger is like trying to tackle a chainsaw, so we know how that goes. Now we move to where they say the neon lights are bright. What's that, number 4?
That's right, going to the Big Apple. And you know how I like to go old school, Cole.
You do?
I believe in giving a lot of respect to the players that came before, and that includes early on in the Super Bowl era. And this is one of my favorite tandems. Remember, we're talking talent here. No quarterback had more talent than Joe Namath. I mean, Bill Walsh said it himself, and I think Bill Walsh, I would trust his judgment, his footwork, his release. 1967, 14-game season, receivers can get chucked all the way down the field, and Joe Namath throws for 4,000 yards. Over a decade before anybody would do it, Don Maynard, in 14 games, has 1,400 yards. Steve, again, another easy choice, and they would win the Super Bowl III the next year.
This is a layup, and you talked about the talent. We just saw the arm talent there from Joe Namath with Maynard. Look at him getting open now. We weren't seeing all these exotic coverages that we see today. But again, 1-2 tandem talent. This was a layup, and I love these lists because you do pay homage to the guys who deserve it. I love it.
They deserve it.
Absolutely. Now, sliding in at number 3, one half of the duo. Not only is he a member of the Hall of Fame in Canton, but he's also a member of the Beard Hall of Fame, Elliot.
Yeah, better than yours.
Wow.
Not by much. He doesn't have an outsource, though, like you do. Dan Fouts and John Jefferson is who I went with at number 3. Now, John Jefferson is not as famous as Kellen Winslow. He's not as famous as Charlie Joyner. But in the early days of Air Coryell, which, make no mistake, still have their imprint on pro football today, John Jefferson was the dynamic, talented, acrobatic playmaker for this team, and Dan Fouts made it go. Of course, Dan Fouts, first ballot Hall of Famer. John Jefferson, not in the Hall of Fame, but we're talking talent here. And for a 3-year window, Steve, you couldn't stop him.
It was unbelievable, and John Jefferson had the rec specs. He has had the great goggles under the helmet, so he really made those famous. But that was a spectacular time. I think that's part of the Chuck Muncie era.
You bet.
At running back as well. Elliot, man, you're really tagging some.
I went a little deep on that
Digging
one.
deep in his bag of tricks right there. Now, at number 2, some call the next tandem GOAT 1A and GOAT 1A.
Yeah, well, again, whenever you're doing these kinds of things, you don't want to just say, yeah, well, we just saw this, so can it really be the greatest of all time? Yeah, I think Tom Brady, Randy Moss, if we're talking talent, I wouldn't put them on the best all time because they didn't play together long enough. Yeah. But in 2007, they were as good as just about any in NFL history, except for one, which we'll get to. But Randy Moss, 23 touchdown catches. Tom Brady, 50 touchdown passes. And, Steve, I'll never forget that last week against the Giants when Brady hit Moss on the deep ball, and it looked too easy.
It looked too easy. And remember, this is kind of the only vertical era that we saw in the Patriots' recent run. The Super Bowl champions were first defense. Then they kind of went to the catch and run. This was a great run, and they did. It was very short-lived.
Now, I call Tom and Randy GOAT 1A and GOAT 1A because number 1 on the list, they're just the GOAT. There's no 1A, there's no 1B. It's these two without saying.
Yeah, this wasn't hard. Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. Let me tell you, the hardest part is picking what year. I took 1987, and the reason was because Jerry Rice was in year 3. I don't want to say the light bulb came on, but this is where he really became Jerry Rice. 22 touchdown receptions in a strike-shortened 12-game season. He added another one rushing. Okay, so he had 23 touchdowns in 12 games. Okay, this is before the re-emphasis of illegal contact. Thank you, Bill Polian. This is, before all the player safety rules, when it was a little bit harder. And Joe Montana led the league in passer rating.
Just the fact he did it in 12 games is incredible. Elliot, I always got to drop one in here.
That's okay.
You talk about the great season with Tom Brady and Randy Moss. What about Peyton Manning? Yeah. 2013 with the Denver Broncos, 55 touchdowns, 5,400 yards. And then Demaryius Thomas on the other end, 92 catches, 1,400 yards. Those are some impressive numbers. A guy who supposedly his arm was dead, and he goes and they light it up.
I'm going to re-argue with your argument of me, which is say, why not Peyton Manning with Marvin Harrison? Thank you, Bill Polian, again, for giving us that duo. It's a great point, and it's a little bit like Deion Sanders. Peyton Manning tends to overshadow the other side of that deal, but, yeah, those are great ones. I mean, it shows you how hard this list is.
Absolutely.
To do.
Yeah, that final list, as good as it gets. And to quote the Wu-Tang's RZA, thoughts connect like the quarterback to the wide receiver. And none connection was better than Joe Cool and the GOAT, Jerry Rice. Elliot, this list, second to none, my friend.
Thank you. I still like your beard.
Thank you.